your mouth when somebody's talking. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I've had a cold and my voice is not the normal boom that it usually is.
If amendment number
Agreed
6
to
is passed,
stand up for one.
Mike's reading the criteria you're talking about for workforce housing.
it's been focused on multi-family houses, dwellings only, to comply with the majority of the town land area for workforce housing. The statute states there's two types of houses that comply with workforce housing. Single-family homes evaluated at 200, and I think it's,
And I think your ordinance, by the definition of cluster,
Let me
would
finish.
allow single duplexes or multifamily with the five-family cap.
my question is, and we had this the last time we all met, the planning board number one is a two-part deal. They took the grant to put these amendments together. There was a grant the year before that asked for monies for town to do a study to see if number one, they may in fact already comply with workforce housing. It states right in the RSA to take an existing housing stock survey in your town. Now, you don't have to submit to anybody, but you need to take one and see, number one, do we comply? We may in fact already comply. Let me just finish, and if we do, we would have to do nothing but to send a letter to the state, point out the RSA, go down to paragraph to paragraph, we have taken a look, we've addressed it this way, we feel we are in compliance, we will ask our board to take a look at it every 5 years, because that's when the new stats come out for evaluation costs and changes and things of that nature, and we will make, if at any time we fall out of compliance, then we've instructed the board, meaning the planning board in this case, to take a look, and we'll do something. And the something that we do does not have to be take multi-family homes of 5 dwellings and put them in commercial, residential, and agricultural, because the law says the workforce housing must be available in a majority of its land areas. That's including single-family dwellings in that factor. And it says right in the law that you can out even lower, it says do not be misconstrued that multi-family dwellings need to be put in a majority of its land area designated for residential use. It says it right in the law. And the board to date has only looked at the multi-family dwelling homes to comply with this law. And that's what's got people upset and scared. I mean, am I wrong? I don't believe I am. That's the
I'm
problem.
trying to find where the question was, other than.
The question is, would they have been able to allow the multi-family dwellings in, let's say, just the commercial and residential areas, not in the majority of its land area, but backing it off to maybe the 20% that it might be, or 30, or whatever that number is, would we have still been in compliance? That, and also in consideration with the single-family homes that we have, and also meeting the factor rate that we needed to meet.
If I can summarize your question,
Sure.
it's were there other ways of meeting the statute?
Correct.
Okay. There are many ways of meeting the statute.
Is a letter of compliance indicating to the state you feel you're in compliance? Is that one letter?
Yes.
Could be.
Yes.
Here is the problem with that I have seen.
You're going to tell me the problem is somebody suing you. You already said that even after you do it, somebody's going to sue you.
Because you're looking at.
We all know.
Do you want me to answer the question, sir?
Okay.
A letter of compliance says we meet right now. Okay? That is one option. That is good for the snapshot time in which it was taken.
Correct.
It does not mean that, sir, I heard you, please.
Okay.
It does not mean that you are then protected from the next year when somebody comes in and says, I want to do this. Okay. There are various ways of possibly making the pieces all fit. The board chose this way. The voters will decide on the 12th if they like this way. If they don't like this way, My recommendation to the planning board is take what you have heard, rearrange the piles, and find a different process that then will protect you. Because doing nothing doesn't protect you.
Understand totally?
Okay.
And I agree with that, doing nothing will not. But doing the extreme purpose.
I have a question on amendment number 6, Susan Shannon, and my address is 30 Upper Road. On amendment number 6, do we still have a open space requirement if someone's doing a large subdivision? So that would be covered in deciding that maybe you need 220 feet of frontage for each housing lot you were putting, there would still be a requirement for open space? No?
Yes, this doesn't affect that. Period.
Double Coxon, within a dark blue area. My question is about the terminology and the legends, referencing the dark blue areas and the adopted zoning map. It refers to that as shoreline recreational. And the new zoning map that's proposed, it refers to it as shoreline residential. To me, in the ordinances I've read, there's a different meaning between recreational and residential. So why is that difference in the two maps?
Mr. Moderator, may I answer that question?
Yes, please.
These are names only. What is referred to under that name is found in the master plan. We are not significantly proposing to define what the use is by the name brand that's on it. It was simply a name brand reference. There is no change whatsoever proposed with the dark blue area, which is the recreational area. When you're talking zoning, it's called recreational zoning district. In the future land use plan, which is part of the master plan, it's referred to as shoreland residential. In terms of the content, the requirements, what uses are allowed, what minimum lot size, what minimum road frontage, setbacks, all of that would remain the same. There's absolutely no change to the dark blue recreational zone around the largest, the Winnisquam and Hermit Lake. Yep.
Andy Sanborton on Knox Mountain Road. This RSA has been in effect for some time, and there have been towns that have adopted some forms of workforce housing regulation, I'm assuming. I've been warned through the mail that we adopt these measures that my taxes are going to suffer grievously. Do we have anecdotal stories from towns that adopted workforce housing about an avalanche of extreme taxation? Has there been an impact in the circle of town planners that you can speak of that is terribly negative on towns that have adopted these provisions?
Answer your question.
The answer to that is simply no. There is no information one way or the other that I'm aware of that says if you do this, you automatically that happens. If you adopt workforce housing provisions in your local zoning ordinance, taxes will increase on average by such and such. I have seen no such studies throughout the state. I'm not aware of any amongst the planners. And I do want to say that there was a question raised at the previous meeting about the question of if a workforce housing development goes in, will it pay zero taxes or less taxes than a comparable development? And the answer is no. The tax situation will remain the same. A workforce housing development coming into town will pay full measure of taxes according to their assessment. There's no
He's lying.
I was just going to say what Bob said. Workforce housing, if that comes in as a project, it is, all workforce housing is assessed exactly the same way as your property or my property, no change. And the tax rate applied is my tax rate and your tax rate. Okay? There is no break, no reduction. We're not carrying. The rest of us aren't carrying. Because it's workforce housing, it's have to be somewhat more affordable. So it's going to be a $200,000 house, not a $400,000 house. So that the taxes will be less because of that, but no break on the appraisal, no break on the rate.
Mr. Auditor, if I may, our tax collector, I think, has some insight to this particular topic. Mine's different. If I may take a different spot after her.
Okay?
Thank you.
Jane Goss, I live on Morrison Road. I asked this question at one of the meetings, prior meetings that we went for, asked it of the planner. We have a piece of land on our road that a developer owns. And I asked him what he could do with that piece of land. It goes right up near Jody Slack's house, almost up to his driveway. I asked him what he could do. He said he could put 3 buildings, 5 apartments each on that, in just that space. And I asked him, what if there was, that's 15 apartments on a little country road. And I said, what happens if each one of those, these are low and moderate income. What happens if each apartment has 3 children? That's 45 kids. Now, don't tell me that's not going to impact our fire, our police, and our schools. If we have an explosion of these all over the place, you could bankrupt this town. If we had like 500 kids, if we had an explosion, we have a lot of land in Sanborton, a lot of raw land. If we had these apartment houses in all these areas that they could go in, and if there was an explosion, it would bankrupt this town. We can't afford the taxes.
What is your question?
That's what I'm telling you. This is what
What is
he
your
had told
question?
me before.
This is a question
That this
for-
would happen.
Scale back.
Don't be a comment.
Sir?
Yeah. My name is Mark Thrift, I'm 509 Sanborn Road. A question regarding Article 6, in regards to the zoning board having or the planning board having the ability to change setbacks, lot size, averaging and such. In other words, in plain English, are we going to lose what we've had since 1952, which is an 1.5 acre protection in the historical district, a 3 acre, to use your cookie cutter analogy? I can see the wisdom of dividing a lot that is 187.5 feet of the stone wall, but he's still going to have 3 acres?
Evelyn's our pro on this.
I have to say that when I came back on the board, this is that article is what I was pushing for. And I'll tell you why. My husband and I had over 300 acres, and we wanted to give each of our children a piece of land. I didn't want one of them to get a cookie cutter lot where the stone wall came down the middle and they had to tear it down to make a house. So I had to go to the ZBA to get it done, and I didn't succeed on one piece. But what I wanted was, as long as your entire development has the right amount of frontage, why does it matter how we chop it up? I furnished the amount of frontage that was needed. And the first lot went from this stone wall to this stone wall, the next one went from here to a brook. The next one is very narrow because it was on a curve. But you drive past my house now and you'd hardly know that there was divisions there. It still looks like good old Hill Road, where if it had been cookie cutter lots, that would change everything. And I wanted everybody to have this opportunity. We aren't giving away anything. We're just using different measurements. They still have to have the same amount of land and frontage in total, so your density isn't going to get any greater. You're just fitting the lots on differently.
Okay, I appreciate that, I understand. If I may follow up on the fact that, I understand now that, we don't have the infrastructure of the city of Manchester, we don't have public water, we don't have sewage. I may have, I bought in Sanborton 32 years ago because of the protections that were offered since 1952, which is really strict zoning, back in the Yankeeism days, before the legislature messed it up, okay? But the fact of the matter is, my investment of 32 years was protected. Now I feel it's at risk because of the changes being proposed here. And it's not just me. You can have a neighbor 20 feet from your house if that's how it happens to be, because the rest of his land's not buildable. And so I'm not supportive of this initiative, to be very honest with you, simply because of the fact that to meet some arbitrary, one-size-fits-all approach that the legislature took. Now, let me back up for a moment. I served for 12 years as a county commissioner here in Belleville County, 10 of those as a chairman. But I also, as a result of that, served 3 years as the president of all 10 counties in the state, working with the legislature and leadership and the governor. I can tell you for a fact, the mentality under that gold dome down there is more the fact that sure one size fits all, okay? It doesn't, because I wrestled tooth and nail with proposals that were great for Rockingham, Hillsborough County, where they had the wealth, the infrastructure and everything else, but didn't work for the beans in Coas, Tract, and Carroll County. So that's my setting coming into this thing, is that trying to find a template that satisfies other bureaucrats in a cubicle doesn't work. And I don't want to know why our rights since 1952 are being usurped by people that, the adage is, pay the South, preserve the North. And I'm not signing up for that. Thank you.
Croc TV.